Have you ever had one of those days where you walk into a room and completely forget why you're there? Maybe your words get a little jumbled, or you feel unusually tired, even though you had a good night's sleep. Most of us chalk that up to aging, stress, or maybe just needing another cup of coffee. But what if, just what if, those weren't just everyday moments? What if they were early signs of something far more serious? Here's the thing. Every 40 seconds, someone in the US has a stroke. It's one of the leading causes of long-term disability in adults. But what's especially worrying is that many strokes don't come with the dramatic, movie-style collapse. They creep in quietly, with symptoms so subtle, many folks, especially older adults, don't even realize what's happening. That delay, it can cost precious time and brain cells. In today's video, we're going to talk about the stroke symptoms that don't make the headlines. The ones that are easy to brush off. You might not feel pain. You might not even realize something is wrong. But knowing these warning signs could make all the difference for you or someone you love. So if you've ever thought, that's just part of getting older, this video is especially for you. If you find this helpful, please tap the like button, subscribe to Vibrant Elders for more friendly, practical health insights, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences. Let's get started. Number 1. Sudden confusion or trouble finding words. Now here's where things start to get a little sneaky. One of the most commonly missed signs of a stroke, especially in older adults, is something many of us laugh off or joke about: suddenly not being able to find the right word. It might start off small. You're talking with a friend or maybe telling a story at the dinner table, and all of a sudden, you just can't remember a word. Not a complicated word either, something simple like remote or coffee. You know what you want to say, it's right there in your mind, but it won't come out. Or worse, the wrong word slips out instead, like calling your TV the microwave, and not even realizing it until someone gives you a strange look. Sounds familiar? For many people over 60, this kind of thing happens once in a while. And yes, aging can make memory a bit slower. But when it comes on suddenly, and especially if it's paired with confusion or frustration, it could be a red flag. You see, language and communication are controlled by very specific areas in the brain. If blood flow gets blocked in those spots, even briefly, your ability to retrieve or form words can be affected. And here's the tricky part. You might not notice it's happening. It's often the people around you who pick up on it first. I remember hearing a story from a viewer in Wisconsin. Her husband was reading the newspaper and started saying odd words that didn't make sense. Instead of saying, "I'm going to get some toast," he said something like, "I'm fixing the windows with butter." At first, she thought he was just being silly. But when she looked at his face, something seemed off. She called 911 just to be safe, and sure enough, it was a TJ. He got treated fast, and he's doing great today. This is why it's so important to trust your instincts. If you or someone you love suddenly seems to lose track of words, becomes unusually confused, or starts struggling to follow a conversation, especially if that's out of character, don't brush it off. Don't assume it's just being tired or a senior moment. It could be your brain's way of asking for help. Also, if you're on the phone with a loved one and they sound not quite right, pay attention. A slight change in speech, like using vague words, that thing, the whatchamacallit, or struggling to complete thoughts, could be a sign that something is off. That's especially true if the person normally communicates clearly. Here's a little tip. Ask them to repeat a sentence or describe what they're doing. If they seem confused, can't find the words, or you sense hesitation, it's better to act than wait. Don't worry about bothering emergency services. EMTs would much rather respond to a false alarm than arrive too late to help. Remember, strokes don't always start with drama. Sometimes they whisper. That's why this symptom, difficulty finding words, is often overlooked. But it's one of the earliest ways your brain may be telling you, hey, something's not right. And again, time is crucial. If you catch it early, doctors can use medication to reverse the effects or prevent a full stroke. But if you wait, even just an hour or two, it could lead to permanent damage. So the next time you feel unusually foggy or someone around you starts speaking in a way that doesn't sound like them, don't ignore it. It might not just be a slip of the tongue. Coming up next, we're going to look at another hidden stroke sign that often gets dismissed, especially when it affects just one eye. You might think it's dry eyes or just needing new glasses, but it could be much more serious. Number 2, vision trouble in one eye only. Another symptom that flies under the radar far too often, sudden vision trouble in just one eye. Now, picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table with your morning coffee, flipping through the newspaper or maybe scrolling on your tablet. Everything's fine until one eye starts to feel blurry, almost like there's a smudge on your glasses. You blink a few times, maybe rub your eye, and after a minute or two, it clears up. So you brush it off. Maybe you figure it's just dry eyes or the lighting in the room. We've all had those moments, right? But here's the part most people don't know. That kind of brief, one-sided vision change could be a TIA, a mini stroke, and it's your body sending out a red flare. The reason this happens is pretty straightforward. When blood flow is interrupted to the part of the brain that controls vision, or even to the optic nerve itself, you might lose sight in one eye or feel like there's a curtain being pulled across your vision. Sometimes, it's not total blindness. It might just feel like things are dim, or colors aren't as sharp, or there's a patch of your field of view that suddenly goes blank. And because it often clears up quickly, people just move on with their day. That's where the danger lies. I remember a gentleman from Ohio, 74 years old, who shared that he noticed his right eye went fuzzy for about 10 minutes while he was gardening. He thought maybe pollen got in it. It wasn't until his wife noticed him swaying a little while walking back inside that they called for help. Sure enough, it was a mini stroke. If they'd waited, it could have been much worse. One of the trickiest parts about strokes is that they often affect only one side of the body, including the eyes. And because many of us already wear glasses, deal with cataracts, or have some age-related vision changes, a lot of seniors dismiss this kind of episode as nothing to worry about. But if it comes on suddenly, and especially if it's something you've never experienced before, it's time to pay attention. Think of it like this: your eyes are part of your brain. If your vision suddenly changes in one eye, it's not just an eye thing. It could be a brain thing. So what should you do? If you ever experience sudden vision loss, blurriness, or changes that don't make sense, especially if they affect just one eye, don't wait for it to pass. Sit down, stay calm, and call 911. Yes, even if the symptom disappears quickly, paramedics and ER doctors would rather you be safe than sorry. These kinds of early strokes can often be treated with medications like clot busters if caught in time. And here's a tip for caregivers or loved ones. If someone tells you they had weird vision earlier in the day, don't ignore it. Ask them what they were doing when it happened, how long it lasted, and if it's ever happened before. The more details you can give medical professionals, the better chance they have to pinpoint what's going on. Vision issues are common with age, yes, but that's exactly why this stroke symptom gets missed. So from now on, if your vision shifts suddenly in just one eye, consider it a serious signal, not just another part of growing older. Next, we'll explore something even more subtle: dizziness and balance issues that show up when you're not even moving. It's one of the most common early stroke signs, and yet, one of the easiest to misread. Number 3, sudden dizziness or loss of balance. Not just getting up too fast. Dizziness, not the kind you get when you stand up too fast or skip breakfast, but something different. Sudden, unexplained dizziness or a loss of balance can be one of the earliest and most overlooked signs of a stroke, especially among older adults. Here's how it usually happens. You're sitting in your favorite recliner, maybe watching the news or enjoying a quiet afternoon, and out of nowhere, you feel like the room is spinning. Not just a little lightheadedness, but that full-on, carnival ride spinning that makes your stomach drop. Maybe you try to stand up and suddenly feel wobbly, like your legs forgot what to do. Or maybe you take a few steps and veer off to one side, like your body isn't getting the right instructions. Most people think, oh, maybe I got up too fast, or maybe I'm dehydrated. That's fair, we're taught to think those things. But when that dizzy spell hits without warning, while you're already sitting or lying down, or if it comes on with no obvious reason, that's when it's time to stop and think. Could this be a stroke? You see, your brain controls balance and coordination through a region called the cerebellum. If a stroke affects that area, or the brain stem, which also plays a role in movement, you may not get the typical face drooping or speech slurring. Instead, your body might just suddenly feel off-kilter, like you're trying to walk straight, but your legs aren't listening. I remember a woman from Arizona who shared her story. She was baking cookies with her granddaughter, standing still at the counter, when she suddenly had to grab onto the kitchen island to keep from falling. Her legs weren't weak, but she couldn't seem to steady herself. She thought maybe her blood sugar had dropped. drank a little juice, and waited it out. But the dizziness didn't go away. Luckily, her granddaughter called 911. The ER team confirmed it had been a small stroke, and she got treatment in time. She's fine today, but she said she never would have guessed just feeling dizzy could be a stroke. That's the tricky thing. These symptoms are so common in everyday life that we often brush them off. Older adults especially are used to dealing with blood pressure shifts, medication side effects, and even occasional vertigo. But here's the key difference. If the dizziness comes on fast, hits hard, and doesn't make sense for the situation, it's not something to ignore. And it's not just spinning, either. Sometimes, it's more like feeling off balance when you try to walk, or a weird sense that your body is leaning even when you're standing still. If it's paired with nausea, trouble walking in a straight line, or even double vision, that's even more reason to act fast. If you're a caregiver or loved one and notice someone struggling to keep their balance, stumbling for no reason, or holding on to furniture while they walk, ask them how they feel. Did the room spin? Do they feel like they're tilting? Are they seeing straight? Even if they say, "Oh, I'm fine," trust your gut. Better to call for help and have peace of mind than to find out later it was something serious. Your body has ways of warning you when something isn't right. You just have to be willing to listen. And when it comes to strokes, balance issues and sudden dizziness are not just senior stuff. They're alarms that need attention. Coming up next, we'll talk about one of the most misunderstood warning signs. When your body feels completely wiped out, even when you've done absolutely nothing. Number 4, sudden fatigue or loss of energy. Imagine this. You've had your usual night's sleep, nothing unusual in your routine. You wake up, maybe make your coffee, and then, bam, you feel like you've been hit by a truck. You sit down, thinking maybe it'll pass, but your whole body feels heavy. Even getting up to change the channel feels like too much effort. It's not just tired, it's drained, like your energy got zapped. Most of us would chalk that up to age, weather, or maybe not enough water. But here's what many people don't realize. Sudden, unexplained fatigue can actually be a warning sign of a stroke, particularly in older adults and especially in women. When a stroke begins, your brain starts to work overtime to compensate for the interruption in blood flow. Even before the more obvious symptoms show up, your body is already reacting. That wave of fatigue is your brain struggling, trying to keep things running while certain areas begin to shut down or misfire. It's like your internal battery is dying and your whole system knows it. One of our viewers in Florida sent us a message last year. She said she woke up one morning, made it to the kitchen, and just didn't feel right. No headache, no chest pain, just bone-deep tiredness. She tried to shake it off with a cold glass of water and a walk outside. But halfway across the porch, she felt her legs slow down, like they weren't keeping up with her brain. Her daughter happened to call just then, noticed something was off in her voice, and insisted she go to the ER. Turned out she had a mild stroke during the night. If she'd waited until the afternoon like she planned, things could have turned out much worse. Here's the thing. Fatigue is easy to ignore. We all feel tired from time to time, and when you're retired, it's normal to have slower days. But you know your body. When the tiredness feels different, deeper, sudden, unshakable, and especially if it's paired with anything else that feels off, it's time to take it seriously. Sometimes this type of stroke-related fatigue comes with a heavy feeling in the limbs. You might feel like your arms or legs don't want to cooperate, or you're mentally alert, but your body just doesn't want to follow. That disconnect is a clue that something neurological might be going on. If you notice this in a loved one, maybe they suddenly stop mid-sentence and say, "I don't know why, I'm just so tired," or they cut short an activity they normally enjoy. It's worth asking a few gentle questions. Did the tiredness come on fast? Does it feel different than usual? Are they having trouble thinking clearly or moving as usual? Stroke-related fatigue doesn't always come with pain or dramatic symptoms. Sometimes, it just feels like you're running on empty for no reason. And when that kind of exhaustion comes out of the blue, it's not laziness. It's not just getting older. It's a red flag. So, if your body, or someone else's, suddenly says, "Stop," listen to it. Don't push through it. Sit down. Take stock of how you're feeling, and don't be afraid to call for help if anything seems off. A nap won't fix it, but quick action might. Next, we're going to touch on something that almost no one would ever connect to a stroke, but can actually be a sign, especially in women. Hiccups or nausea that just won't go away. Number 5. Hiccups or nausea. Ever had the hiccups show up out of nowhere and refuse to quit? Annoying, right? Most of the time, it's harmless. Maybe you drank something fizzy, ate too fast, or laughed too hard during dinner. But here's a surprise most people have never heard. Persistent hiccups or sudden nausea, especially when they seem to come out of the blue, can sometimes signal a stroke. This one really catches folks off guard. You might be sitting on the couch, watching TV, and suddenly feel queasy. Or maybe you're fine 1 minute, and then get hit with the hiccups that just won't let up. It doesn't feel like a stomach bug, and it's not food poisoning, but something just feels off. Here's why this happens. Certain types of strokes, particularly those that affect the brain stem, can mess with the parts of your brain that regulate involuntary actions, like swallowing, balance, and yes, hiccup reflexes. And because the brain stem connects to so many key functions, even a small disruption there can cause strange symptoms that don't seem to match what we think of as stroke behavior. A woman from Virginia shared a story that stuck with me. Her mom, 68 at the time, kept getting hiccups one evening. They laughed about it at first, told her to hold her breath or drink water upside down like old wives' tales suggest. But after 2 hours, they still hadn't gone away. And on top of that, she started to feel a little dizzy and nauseous. She thought she'd just eaten something bad. But her daughter, who had seen something on the news about unusual stroke symptoms, decided to call an ambulance, just in case. That just in case saved her mom's life. It turned out to be a small brainstem stroke. The EMTs later said if they'd waited until morning, things could have been much worse. Now, does that mean every time you get the hiccups, you should panic? Of course not. But here's the thing, context matters. If the hiccups come on suddenly, last longer than usual, and especially if they're paired with other symptoms like nausea, dizziness, or trouble speaking, it's not something to ignore. The same goes for unexplained nausea. If you haven't eaten anything odd, haven't been exposed to a virus, and still feel nauseated or like you're about to be sick, it could be your brain reacting to something deeper. And this seems to be especially common in older women, who are more likely to experience stroke symptoms that differ from the classic, fast signs. Let's face it, most of us wouldn't connect something like an upset stomach or hiccups to brain health. We're more likely to check the expiration date on the milk or blame it on stress. That's why it's so important to pause when something seems out of the ordinary. So what should you do? First, take note of what's happening. Did the hiccups or nausea appear suddenly? Are they lasting longer than usual? Are there other changes, like fatigue, balance trouble, or confusion? If so, call 911. Let the professionals sort it out. No one's going to judge you for being cautious, especially when every minute counts. And if you're with someone who seems unusually queasy or can't stop hiccuping, don't just hand them antacids or ginger ale. Ask a few simple questions. Are they feeling dizzy? Is their speech clear? Does one side of their face seem a little slack? Even a short check-in like that can make all the difference. Sometimes, the body whispers before it shouts. Strange as it sounds, a case of hiccups might just be that whisper, and listening to it could save a life. Number 6, numbness or weakness in a limb, not full paralysis. You know that feeling when your leg falls asleep after sitting too long? It tingles, it's annoying, but it usually goes away after you move around. Now imagine this. You reach for your coffee mug, and your arm feels heavier than usual. Not numb exactly, not paralyzed, just slow, uncooperative, like your brain gave the command, but your body didn't quite get the message. That kind of subtle weakness, especially if it comes on suddenly and affects one arm or one leg, is a symptom that far too many people overlook. They think, maybe I slept funny, or it's just arthritis acting up. And sure, those are possible. But if that weakness is new, sudden, or seems to affect just one side, that's a big clue that something's not right. Here's why. The brain is wired so that the left side controls the right side of your body, and the right side controls the left. If a stroke blocks blood flow to one side of your brain, the opposite side of your body can experience weakness, numbness, or strange sensations. But here's the catch. It doesn't always show up as full-blown paralysis. Sometimes it's just a draggy leg, a lazy arm, or fingers that suddenly feel clumsy. I spoke with a gentleman from Illinois who shared his experience. He was eating lunch, and when he reached for his glass, he knocked it over. He thought he was just being careless. Then he realized he couldn't grip his fork as tightly with his right hand. Still, he didn't think stroke. It wasn't until he tried to stand up and felt off balance that he called his daughter. By the time she got there, he was slurring his words. The paramedics later told him those early signs, just the weakness in his hand, were the first sign of the stroke. That's what makes this symptom so tricky. It doesn't always scream emergency. It whispers. And when you're in your 60s or 70s, with arthritis or an old shoulder injury, it's easy to blame that moment of weakness on something else. But your body knows the difference between, "I've been stiff lately," and "something's not working right." So here's what to watch for. If one arm feels heavier than the other, if you have trouble holding or lifting things, if your leg starts dragging slightly when you walk, all of a sudden, that's not normal aging. That's a sign to stop what you're doing and assess. And especially if that weakness is accompanied by confusion, dizziness, or trouble speaking, it's time to call 911. Caregivers and family members, this is where you come in, too. If you notice someone favoring one side, using a wall for support, or seeming clumsier than usual, don't brush it off. Ask if their limb feels different. Have them raise both arms at the same time. If one droops or doesn't respond the same way, don't wait. That's a classic stroke check, even when speech and face muscles seem fine. And remember, speed matters. Doctors can give medications to restore blood flow, but there's a narrow window of time where they work best. Catching it early could mean a full recovery instead of long-term rehab. One final note. Weakness doesn't always mean pain. That's why it gets missed. But just because it's painless doesn't mean it's harmless. So the next time your body feels off, like one side is lagging behind the other, don't shrug it off. That coffee mug, dropped fork, or stumble might be trying to tell you something much more serious. Up next, we'll explore a symptom that hides in plain sight. Sudden mood changes or shifts in personality that might seem emotional, but it could actually be neurological. Number 7. Mood changes or personality shifts. Have you ever felt off emotionally for no clear reason? Maybe suddenly irritable, down, or even oddly emotional. Crying at a commercial or snapping at someone you love over something small. Most of us chalk that up to a bad day, poor sleep, or maybe hormones shifting with age. But what many people don't realize is that a sudden change in mood or personality can actually be one of the most overlooked signs of a stroke. It might seem strange at first. After all, strokes are physical, right? But remember, your brain controls everything, including how you feel and how you react. When blood flow to certain emotional centers in the brain is disrupted, your mood can change in an instant. And that shift can be so subtle or unexpected that even close family members don't recognize it for what it is. One story that really stayed with me came from a woman in Oregon. Her husband, normally calm and easygoing, suddenly became unusually withdrawn. He didn't want to eat dinner, didn't want to talk, and even snapped at the grandkids for being too loud, something he never did before. At first, she thought maybe he was just having an off day. But when it stretched into the next morning, and he still wasn't himself, she trusted her gut and took him to the ER. Turns out, he had experienced a small stroke that affected the frontal lobe of his brain, the part responsible for emotional regulation and personality. That's the thing. Mood changes caused by a stroke often don't come with slurred speech or facial drooping. Instead, they show up as irritability, sadness, anxiety, or even inappropriate laughter or tears. The person might feel confused, disconnected, or struggle to understand why they're feeling the way they do. For caregivers or adult children, this can be really confusing. One day, mom is cheerful and talkative. The next, she's distant or agitated, and you're not sure if she's upset, sick, or just tired. But if those changes come on quickly, out of the blue, and especially if they're accompanied by any other symptom we've talked about so far, it's time to dig deeper. It's also important to mention that these emotional shifts can happen even after a stroke begins to resolve. Sometimes, mood swings are part of the brain healing and rewiring itself. But if that change is sudden, unexplained, and just doesn't feel right, it's always worth checking out. There's also a layer of complexity here that affects women more often. Studies show that women are more likely to experience stroke symptoms that don't fit the classic FAST profile, including emotional or mental changes. That means older women who suddenly feel overwhelmed, depressed, or unusually anxious might not even realize something physical is happening. And because women are often caregivers themselves, they may be less likely to speak up or seek help for what seems like just feelings. Here's what you can do. If you or someone close to you has a noticeable shift in mood, especially if it happens fast, without explanation, or feels extreme, pause. Ask yourself, did this come out of nowhere? Are they acting unlike themselves? Do they seem confused or emotionally out of sync with the situation? If yes, don't assume it'll pass. And if you're the one feeling not like yourself, don't brush it off. You know your baseline better than anyone. If something feels different, off balance emotionally, it's worth paying attention to, just as much as physical pain or weakness. Strokes don't always shout. Sometimes, they slip in quietly, through our emotions, through a moment of fog, or a tear that doesn't seem to belong. Now that we've explored these hidden symptoms, let's take a moment to pull it all together, so you can protect yourself and the people you care about from being caught off guard. So let's take a breath and think back on what we've just covered. Strokes don't always show up with flashing lights and sirens. Sometimes they tiptoe in with a whisper, a little forgetfulness, a blurry eye, a spell of dizziness, or just feeling off. And the truth is, many of these symptoms, like hiccups, fatigue, clumsiness, or mood changes, can be easy to overlook, especially when they seem like part of getting older. But now you know better. And knowing what to look for puts you in a position of strength. Because the sooner a stroke is recognized, the sooner it can be treated, and the better the chances of recovery. That's not just a line doctors say. It's the real deal. Lives are saved every day because someone noticed something didn't feel quite right and spoke up. So here's what I'd love for you to take away from this. Listen to your body and trust your gut. If you feel something unusual, whether it's a strange tiredness, a word you can't find, or a sudden burst of emotion that doesn't feel like you, pause. Don't push through it. And please, don't wait until it gets worse. This video isn't about scaring you. It's about preparing you and giving you tools to protect yourself and your loved ones. That's what Vibrant Elders is all about, staying sharp, safe, and living fully at every stage of life. If this helped you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to Vibrant Elders for more health and wellness topics like this, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Your story might just help someone else. Take care of yourself, and remember, you're never too old to take charge of your health.